Stormgate Press presents a collection of 7 new short stories from today's leading authors and illustrators in the new pulp genre. Experience courageous two-fisted heroes and their intrepid and often dangerous exploits. From dark, watery depths to high-flying heights, these fantastic tales span the globe and take the reader on fast-paced adventures in classic pulp style. Take a seat as we pull back the curtain on days gone by with edge-of-your-seat storytelling in the vein of Golden Age era pulp fiction. This is Pulp Reality. Available now from Stormgate Press on Amazon.com.
Welcome to Nevermind, the Furthermore, with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. Beware, beware. That might not be a phone jingling in your pocket. Join the Nevermorians for morning mischief and madness at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. Your sense of humor is the only thing you need to wear.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Nevermind the Furthermore for Saturday, December 5th, 2020. And it's going to be more like Clever Title Pending, our Tuesday night show, but we're going to be a little more relaxed here, and we are celebrating, we're going towards the end of a very special day for Charles F. Millhouse. We are celebrating the release of his brand new magazine, Pulp Reality #1. If you want to see more of the background, please check out Clever Title Pending on my playlist on YouTube from last Tuesday night. It was Wednesday. We've been doing the Pulp Reality thing a lot this week. It'll be almost a shame to have it end, but anyway, tonight we are celebrating this magazine, this great accomplishment, one more time. And of course, I'm your host, Brian K. Morris. Thank you for watching us, whether it's live or on the rerun. We really appreciate your support. We really do. If you're watching us on Facebook, please, if you like what you see, please give this video a like if you would. And also like the venue you're watching it on, whether it's the Rising Tide Publications page on Facebook, like I said, or the IndieVent page, because it really helps us with the algorithms. Just takes a second, doesn't cost a thing, makes us happy. And you want to see our friends smile, don't you? Of course you do. Anyway, also, if you're watching us on YouTube on the Geek Insider page or the Rising Tide Publications page, please give the video a thumbs up if you would. And also, please consider subscribing and ring that bell so you'll be notified of any other events that we've got broadcasting on YouTube in the immediate future. And as always, we are brought to you by Plasma Fire Graphics. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. And thank you, Willow Schuyler, for sharing our video. Appreciate you greatly. I really do. Check out the Hanging with Web show network, if you would, please. And also, this show is powered by geekinsider.com. Please check out their amazing lineup of great shows, and also Rising Tide Publications. And we've got the comments coming in fast and furious, just like the movie says. And we'll be posting some of them on the screen while we're talking. But I also want to put in a very special banner there down at the bottom, because we are talking tonight with a fantastic artist that I am really proud to have met tonight. But we're also both in Pulp Reality #1. In fact, in the very same story, there is the one, the only Mr. Stephen Burks. Stephen, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing tonight, Brian?
So far, so good. We'll see what happens in the next 55 minutes or so. But anyway,
We'll see if we can keep it on track.
yeah, we're going to do our best, despite the efforts of our audience. But anyway, audience, please, Stephen is an amazing illustrator. This is a golden opportunity to ask him questions about how do I get my stuff in front of another publisher? How do I put my work out there? What are my options as a creator? So please bring your questions, ask us anything. All right, and we will do our best to answer you. But anyway, Stephen, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here. I was real excited about this opportunity, so I'm looking forward to the discussion. I was real excited about Pulp Reality, the way it turned out, so I'm happy to be here.
I am too. Like I said, you and I, we're totally ignorant of each other's existence.
Oh yeah.
If Millhouse brought us together, but I was absolutely knocked out by your illustration for my story about Captain Hawkland and the Clockwork Pirate. If that title alone doesn't get you to buy the dang book, I don't know what the heck will. And also a link to Stephen's art page on Facebook, as well as where you can order a copy of Pulp Reality right now. Is flashing across the bottom of your screen. And anyway, and if you're listening to us on iHeartRadio or Amazon Music or Spotify, you can look for us on Amazon because that's where it is at. But anyway, Stephen, let's hear from you about how did you get into artwork? What kind of art have you done? What are your influences? Take this whole time. Let's get to know Stephen Burks.
Yeah. So, like most artists, I was always drawing at a very young age. It was, I think my mother would talk about giving me pieces of paper to keep me quiet in church, to give me something to do. So I got into it at a very young age. I didn't stay with it though. It was something I kind of came in and out of over the years. I convinced myself to, I wanted to go down a business path. So I pursued some technology and business pursuits, but I could never completely get away from it. So it's been something that it's very cathartic for me. I enjoy the opportunity to sit in my studio and paint. I do primarily paint. I do a lot of watercolors, a little bit of gouache. So this piece actually does have a little bit that ended up in this publication here. Has a little bit of watercolors in it, but it's mostly pen and ink. So I do a lot of portraits. So different elements of fantasy and sci-fi are heavy in my my work. So influences, David Mack, Alex Ross, there's a whole long list of them. Definitely a lot of the multimedia are the, artists that do a lot of different mediums together at the same time have a lot of influence on me.
Mm-hmm. Now you say, that you work as a painter. Now, how much of it is digital and how much of it is like old school analog, dip your brushes in the tints and everything?
I don't want to offend anybody, but you might say I'm a borderline Luddite.
Offend away.
I really I prefer traditional art. I like when I'm done, there's something you can hold physical. So to me, it's much like books. I prefer to have a physical copy. I like to hold it. Going into a bookstore or going into an art store and seeing something or a gallery, seeing it live is, to me, a part of the experience. So I'm very much traditional in that respect. So there are amazing things you can do with digital, and I don't knock them. They're very, very talented artists. It's just I've tended to stay very traditional.
I understand that. And there's, a definite place for, guys and gals who are doing, this, pen and ink, gouache and everything, and, the acrylics. And now, what kind of paints do you prefer to use?
Like I said, mostly watercolors, a little bit of gouache. I switched about 2 years ago. I switched over to Daniel Smith watercolors. It's I really like the way they play out on the paper. I've looked at a couple other things over the years, and I'm always looking. But the medium and the way that the painter constructed have always worked very well for me. So, yeah, it's interesting. I went through a period where I was actually doing Copic markers. And I did a lot of markers, and that's real popular on the convention circuit to go up to the artists and they do things in Copic markers. And what I realized is I was trying to use them like watercolors, and so eventually I just said this isn't working. So my partner in my studio, we go to shows, and he's always giving me a hard time because I've got all these paints. He's like, pick up less space.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
What kind of shows do you do? Are they strictly art shows, or are they like science fiction / pulp?
Mostly the comic conventions. So mostly along the East Coast, Baltimore, Comic-Con, awesome. I've been down to Heroes Con. I've been out to various places. I've actually been out to Ohio, the Mid-Ohio Con.
I remember Mid-Ohio Con, yeah.
Many years ago. So Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. So I've been through a lot on the east side of the country. So, yeah. But, we're always looking for new things, new places to go. I think coming out of the pandemic, we're all going to be eager to just be somewhere with the people that enjoy what you do. So we're, I'm very eager to get back to that.
I hear you. This guy here, clinging to our coattails for recognition, apparently, Charles at Millhouse. Thank you, Stephen, for supplying a wonderful cover for Brian's story. I echo that. That knocked me out. We were talking about that just before the show, about how I rode roughshod over him with my demands for the art.
So demanding.
I know what a jerk I am, but no. For everyone that asks, I am despite what Eric Hawkins might say, I'm a pretty easy collaborator because, as I was telling Stephen, if you ignore my directions, you'll wind up with a wonderful piece of art. But I've seen some of your portraits.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, that'd be great for Captain Hawkland portrait, and then Stephen comes up with the illustration that you see in the magazine Pulp Reality #1, and I'm like, okay, that's a billion miles from what I asked for, and that is a billion times better than what I was asking for. So,
thank you. I couldn't get away from not drawing the Buccaneer. It just you lay out this character. It seemed so interesting and intriguing, and the thought of doing a portrait. I mean, I would have had a great time doing it, and I think it would have turned out well. But I would have always said, but I didn't do the Buccaneer, and I really needed to do that. So that was why I went a different direction. And I think as I mentioned to you earlier, I was rereading through the story today, and I realized I'd made a choice around the beard. And I think you describe it as a bit more flowing in the actual story. And I went with more of a sculpted look. And it was something I was like, oh, well, he seemed pretty happy with it. So, yes, you can see how overbearing he was.
Yeah, I am such an a-hole. I really am. You never want to work with me. But no, I was absolutely knocked out by your art choices. I really was. It was so marvelously executed. Now, is that your normal process of, or have you done this sort of thing before? And, where you you asked for a copy of the story and you read it, and then you picked a moment in the story that, really encapsulated the excitement of it. Is that your normal process for something like this?
So, I haven't done a huge amount of works for writing, which is odd. But it's actually something I've started to get into more recently, which I think is what led me to meeting Charles to begin with, was a quest around doing more of that. So there's some other projects I'm working on that are going to be very similar to that. To me, I think that there are a couple of ways you can kind of approach artwork. One of them is to try to capture a moment in the story, and then the other is, try to capture a character So the more of the portrait approach. And then the third one is sort of that more, it's just an iconic image that may not directly relate to anything. It's just a strong image of some sort. And so, and you see a lot of that in comic book covers, right? I think we've really trended away from the moments in the comic book to more of the, portraits or some sort of iconic image sort of thing. But if you go back in the day, a lot of them were, trying to capture something from within the story. So as I did a lot of thinking about pulp in general, when Charles and I started talking about this and then working with you, that was one of the things that I really kind of wanted to look at, was how a lot of the pulp covers and art really try to capture some moments within it. And that's where, again, I was sort of leaning away from the portrait, because I really wanted to try to be in the vein of what we're trying to accomplish with the genre. And that's really about leaning back on the past, but maybe looking at it from a fresh eye.
Yeah, I like that. Now, can you? Now we have no problem with dropping names on here. If it's a sin, I'm going straight to hell for all the names I drop around here. So, can you drop some names of some of your other clients that have used your artwork?
Yeah. So I've done some work for cosplayers. Doing paintings of them. I've done I've done writing as well. And so I published a web comic for 15 months, working with a partner in my studio called Our Last Gasp. And I've done some independent film work. We did a series called Phenomena, which was about a group of inept ghost hunters who start encountering real things, and what you might imagine happens when that goes on. I'm started working with another one I'm not able to bring to work to discuss yet. But another publisher. I've done some work for Upper Deck. The card makers. Just a couple of them.
Very cool, very cool. And speaking of independent filmmakers, gotta say hello to Darren Morgan of Moonlight Films. Glad to see you, brother. Hope everything is well. And we have a chief inquisitor here. She comes up with the most amazing questions. And please drop your questions in the comments so that Stephen can answer them for you, all right? Cindy Cap would like to know, do you have a favorite subject to paint?
Yeah, actually I do. Going back to probably what Brian saw the most of, it's women's faces. I really do enjoy doing portraits. I do enjoy particularly working with people. We have so many diverse shapes and sizes and colors, and there's just so many things going on. I don't think we've hit the end of the road for what portraiture can do. And so I do a lot of that. I do have a very heavy fantasy sci-fi bend. So if you think about some of the darker work you probably have seen from like Brahm or something like that, another influence of mine.
He's great.
And Alphonse Mucha, another influence of mine. So those are, you can see where the feminine form and particularly the face comes in a lot. So
very cool, very cool. And Lou Motion, glad to have you here. Lou says, I could use an Illo artist for my hard-boiled detective computer work. Get your pen and paper out, brother, and start writing down those addresses at the bottom and give that page of Stevens a like, okay? Because actually the more likes his page gets, the more visible it becomes in search arguments. So please stop at the Stephen Burks Art on Facebook and just take a moment and give that a like, if you would, please. All right. That would be greatly appreciated by us all. Now, Kelly Austin, who shares the book with us, a talented new writer, says, good evening, everyone. Wonderful salutations to you, Brian and Stephen, this fine evening. Stephen, a question, if I may. Yes, you may, Kelly. What piece of great artwork, sculpture, or otherwise comic book work has impressed you the most, enough to motivate you as a youth? Well, thank you, Kelly. That's a great question. And we will accept multiple answers on this one, because I know that with a lot of creative people, it's not just one.
It isn't one. It really isn't one. And it was a long time since my youth. So
get the hell off my lawn, Stephen. You know what I'm
saying? Exactly. The hell off my lawn. So there were a couple of things. It's funny, you can't see my wall, but
well, hold on a second. Hold on. How's that?
Yeah. So it's the one right in the lower corner, the lower right-hand corner. You can see it right there. That is the cover to Uncanny X-Men 141. Ooh. And it's the Days of Future Past. That book probably influenced me as a young child, probably more than just about anything else. It's the one that really got me interested in writing about superheroes and writing about these sort of bit larger than life characters. John Byrne, the writer, or the artist, was very influential to me early on. I sort of drifted away from his influences, but in terms of the style of his art, it really inspired me at a young age to kind of get into art. Later on, actually you can see some of the D&D stuff as well. The cover to the Player's Handbook, I literally have that on my wall. Because it was a piece of art I saw so many times as a young person playing the game, that the image of the thief stealing the diamond, or stealing the ruby out of the eye of the creature there, or the statue there, it was just something that I just kept coming back to time and time again, that there was so much going on in that particular piece. And as I looked around, there's all these different little elements of a story. And to me, that was what really, as I've gotten older, has drawn me back to art, where art has a story within it. And it's not just just a pretty picture. It's telling us something. It's conveying to us something. And so I would say later on, Brahms' piece of Elric, of Libene, I think I said that right, of Elric, is just amazing. And I've come back to that piece just so many times, looking at the way he constructed the archway that he's standing in as he's holding up the sword, holding up Stormbringer. Those are just pieces that I've come back to time and time again. Obviously, as I've gotten older, I've had a lot more influences and pieces that have stood out. But I would say from my younger days, that X-Men cover and that work by John Byrne, that cover to that Player's Handbook, and that Elric piece were probably some of the ones that really pushed me along at a young age.
I can see that, and I still have my copy of the D&D book that you.
Oh, I got it too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I have 5.5 pounds of dice too. So yeah. Just for the record. Now I'm looking through your studio in the background. I see a Bela Lugosi picture back there, and being able to look up the Byrne and Austin piece has got to be an inspiration. What's that? What's on? I see. Is that autographs on that shirt over your left shoulder?
Oh yeah, that's they're actually inspiring statements. I was a part of an event where people wrote down a single word to describe you.
Oh, wow.
And so it was sort of an event, and so it's one of those sort of things you look at when you're having one of those days, right? To remember some of the positive things people view you at. So yeah,
well, that's cool. It's good to be reminded of that. Now I'm also looking. When I go into somebody's house, I always look at their bookcase, and I see like X up there. Is that from the Comics Greatest Worlds from
yes,
Dark Horse?
Yes,
I know this stuff.
You do.
What would we find in that bookcase? Now, are those mostly reference or inspiration, or just the things you like to have near you when you work, or what?
Yeah. So. Yeah, there's all kinds of things in there. You'll see a lot of independent stuff, I really tend to lean more towards stories that are not, it's like modern television, where we really don't want to grow the characters. We just want to keep it a status quo to keep you coming back week to week. So I tend more towards reading independent stuff where there is a little more emphasis on change and growth within the character. So there's a lot of that in there. Think of like Matt Wagner's Mage series.
Oh yeah.
Where it's literally broken out into 3 different sections of this man's life, starting from when he was a young man to a middle-aged man to an older man, and how that, how what he encounters and changes him and impacts him. Grendel, also by him, is another one I'm a huge fan of, where the character literally changes to different people. So there's a lot of independent stuff. Now that doesn't say I don't enjoy Marvel and DC, and there are definitely those in there as well. And there's some incredible runs of things. The Hawkeye story by David Aja. It wasn't too long ago. That was just an amazing work, visually, in the story, the whole thing. Iron Fist is another character I've been a bit of a fan of, and so there was a run on that as well that I really enjoyed. So there's a lot of things in there, but it's a lot of independence, a lot of independence.
Very
Terry Moore. I am a huge fan of Terry Moore.
Strangers in Paradise.
Yeah, he is absolutely amazing. I've had the opportunity to meet him a few times and chat with him, and he's just an incredibly nice, sweet person to talk to, and his work is, he's doing his thing. He did the big company thing for a while, but he realized he just needed to do his thing. And, I can't put out a book every month. I can do it every 6 weeks. And so he's like, he just does it every 6 weeks. And I've been really impressed with him and his work over the year. And he has beautifully done female figures that are realistic. Yeah. They're not the 6'10" barbarian women you might find somewhere else. They're just, I really, really enjoy his work.
Yeah, I love his expressions.
Yes. Yes, they're cartoon. And he starts with the expressions. If you've ever read anything about his process, a lot of times when he goes to draw a face, he'll draw that expression first because he wants to convey what that expression is, and then he'll put in everything else around it.
Yeah. As a writer, I really appreciate that. The fact that he uses body language and body types, like you said.
Yeah.
Folks, if you haven't read Strangers in Paradise from Abstract Books, you really should. It is a very, very human kind of coming-of-age story that goes off into some really wild directions, but at the core of it are some really genuine people in the heart of it. No stereotypes or anything. It's just it comes to a close at the end. So, man, we are so on the same page. And Sarah says, nice artwork on the wall.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So if you're daunted by the size of Strangers in Paradise, he has other smaller pieces, Rachel's Rising and a few other ones. But definitely, if you're looking for somebody who is independent, on his own, doing his own thing, he draws, he writes. His wife is his publisher. They are the definition of we are on our own press and publishing. Highly recommend it.
Definitely. Good taste, sir. Good taste. And Cindy Cap would like to know what kind of characteristics typify your art. If they were to look at a piece of yours versus, say, an Alex Ross or a David Mack, like you said, if you were working in the same or similar mediums, what about your work would stand out and say, "Oh, yeah, that's Stevens"?
So one of the things that especially when I'm painting, that I focus on a lot are the eyes. And so it's one of the things that will get more attention and more time than anything else in the piece. It's definitely focusing on eyes. And I really try to focus on this sort of ultra realism, if you will, a little bit, where the rest of the piece may be a little bit more relaxed or casual. The eyes tend to be purposely a focal point. So, it's not to take anything away from any of the other artists I've spoken about who are, just masters of their craft. But it's definitely something that I've tried to focus on with my work. I would say that I'm also, I continually grow, we all do. Right. And so I would say that a lot of my focus more recently has been around color choices, really focusing more towards bold colors. Really, I think you can see that piece that was sitting back there with the purple and the sunglasses. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I've been headed more recently, really bold colors and things like that, to really make things pop.
Yeah, nice. Very nice. Cindy Kep further inquires, do you do book covers or that sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm working with another publisher. I can't get into details of that one right now on some book covers, but yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And I've been flashing comments on here. You're winning some people over here, their hearts and minds. And Ted Davies Artistry says, Stephen, great work, good sir. Who is your favorite watercolor artist? Multiple choice again. It could be multiple choice.
Yeah, it's going to have to be. Obviously, David Max is a huge influence of mine. Bill Sienkiewicz is another artist whose work, honestly, it's really funny. Bill is interesting because as a young person reading New Mutants, I was actually turned off when he took over on the art chores. Really? And it wasn't until later on that I came back around, and I appreciate it so much now, and I love what he's doing, and he's an amazing artist. Some names you may not know as well that are just extraordinary watercolorists. Tony Moy, who's out of Chicago. Daniel Govar, who's out of Florida. They're just amazing work. Daniel's work, I was just looking at a piece the other day where his use of light and the reflection of light was just blows me away. Those are just a couple ones that are real famous and a couple that are a little less famous. I have a sort of view on life that everybody can teach me something. I have a piece that I literally just got framed. I don't have it up yet. It's still sitting over there. That's from an artist that literally it was probably maybe her 10th watercolor painting. She's a local artist, and I bought it from her, and I said, listen, it speaks to me. She told me the story behind it, and it was an emotional piece, and it was about that sort of process she was going through in terms of her relationship with her art. And to me, it spoke to me. And so that's really what was important, is that I can learn something from everybody.
That's great.
Yeah. So I would say the influences just don't stop. There's just a long list of them. Mm-hmm. That's a really hard one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I lied to you saying we'd have softball questions here. Anyway.
Yeah. Where were the softball questions again?
Yeah, really. Yeah, they'll come up eventually. Probably no, all the ones from me will be softball, but we've got our chief interrogators here. So, and here we go. Now you are going to have to commit. Now, who is your favorite? Which one is your favorite?
Oh, no.
Oh, now we got him.
No. So this is a really rough one. I'll answer it, but I got to tell you, there is a definitive time when it ended. I was blown away by, and it kind of goes back to something I was talking about earlier about stories. Stories should have beginning, middles, and ends, right? It shouldn't be to sort of just keep going on. The whole Dark Phoenix storyline was amazing. It was this person who had spent all this time, in this relationship with his team, who, was seduced over to this other thing, and ultimately she sacrifices herself. Beginning, middle, end. It was a story. To me, that was wonderful, and I understand as a company, you make decisions around, characters' popularity and stuff like that. But I think as a creator, it was one of the worst things they should have done was bring her back. It was an exceptional story. It had a beginning, a middle, and end, and everything afterwards is just, ruined that.
No, I completely agree with you. And I read, I think Jim Shooter had a blog a few years ago, and he talked about things like that. And during his tenure as Marvel's editor-in-chief, he only allowed one character to return, and that was Elektra. And according to the blog, Frank Miller, who created Elektra for Daredevil Comics, basically had to, he told Jim, I want to bring this character back. And Shooter was like, no, we're not bringing back any characters. And Frank said, let me tell you what I've got in mind. And Shooter said, okay, I'll let you do that because this is such a great story you're doing.
Yeah.
And, but, that's why I said for years, in not just Marvel anymore, but all comics, that heaven doesn't have a pearly gate. It has a revolving door.
Yes.
Security's worse in heaven or hell in the comics than it is at Arkham Asylum. So,
they contract in the same place.
Yeah, pretty much. And Will Schuyler says, I will need to commission a picture of Elvira from you. We will.
Excellent.
Look. See, people get
and she's a wonderful lady, from my understanding. I've had some mutual friends, and so yeah, absolutely.
I've got a friend who cosplays as her out of St. Louis, and I guess she posted the picture, and Cassandra Peterson saw it and reached out to her. So the next time she showed up in Wizard World, she made sure my friend was there. So, which I thought was kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Now here we go. Another hard-hitting question. Brace yourself. And your favorite it's like I'm never coming on this show again, Brian. And your favorite D&D character class to play.
Okay, so so it's funny. When I got the opportunity to sit on that side of the table, which was not as often as I would have liked, I played a ranger.
Rangers are fun.
Yeah.
Rangers are fun.
Yeah.
One time I got to play a half-orc bard in the Hackmaster game, so I will never be forgiven for that. And Merry Christmas to you, Becca Colgrove. Mwah, glad to see you here, hon. And Sarah comments on the fact that it's a family operation, the Moore household, that I love it when couples work together.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. And said, did I miss out on seeing Steven's artwork? Well, it's funny you should mention that. If you pick up a copy of Pulp Reality #1, available on Amazon, not only will you see this amazing man's artwork, you'll get to see it making my story look great. So that's our plug for this quarter hour.
Very kind.
And I mean every word of it. You can hook me up to the lie detector. Seriously, I was knocked out when I saw it. Will Schuyler continues. Do you use a live model when painting or drawing, or do you use a posable figurine, or do you work from photo reference? Or
so I do some photo reference work. I'm much like you would see like an Alex Ross, where if you kind of go through some of his pages, you'll see he's got tons of pictures of himself making various faces and doing things. And so I will do a lot of that. I've got so many pictures of myself on my phone that I need to go delete of, like hands in various contorted positions and things such as that. And so I do a lot of photo reference when I can. It's funny. There's a project I've been conceiving where I'm actually going to hire some models to do some work. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But that is my preferred thing to do, is to get real life into the piece. So I actually don't have a posable figure. I used to for many years, and I don't know, it's lost somewhere over the years. So.
And Charles has posted a couple things here. He's policing us. He has a link to Pulp Reality on Amazon. I've got a shorter one. And it looks something like this. So please And if Christian Basil were here, shut up, Christian. Anyway, that's the type of show we run here. Sorry. Anyway, Rising Tide Publications, copy and paste this address, put it in your browser, and experience the glories that is Pulp Reality #1. And it's not just the two of us. There are some great authors and writers and artists in that book that are well represented. And we thank you, Charles, for putting us all together. Who then comments, X-Men, this show is off the rails. It never started on them, Charles. You've been here often enough to know. So anyway, Jeffrey Hayes, who is Plasma Fire Graphics. I was telling you about Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got another fan, Jeff. Stephen, you are a brother from another mother. Phoenix, John Byrne, D&D, all my influences as well. Too cool.
Yeah. And Jeff, you do great work. Yes, Brian and I were talking about that earlier. Wonderful trailer work. Very nice.
Seriously. And when the look of your book matters to you, plasmafiregraphics.com. And thank you for your sponsorship of this episode. And Sarah, yeah, I think we both are. And what rails? See, Charles? No rails. We work without a rail. But you mentioned Mid-Ohio Con. I have nothing but wonderful memories of that show. I used to drive over from Illinois to go that. We probably bumped into each other and didn't know it at the time. But what other shows do you do when this current year isn't happening?
Yeah. So
that way.
We've been doing. So I'm a part of a small studio of artists, Iconograph, that we've been doing shows for, like 2008 or so as a group. We've done a lot of collaborative projects, both in video medium as well as in art. So I think we have done just about everything in the Mid-Atlantic area, small, medium, large. So if it's anywhere within anywhere from like Pennsylvania down to South Carolina, we probably have done it. But I think the shows we've done the most are Baltimore. We're there every year at Baltimore Comic Con. It's a great show. We have friends that we have been seeing there and people we've been working with for, well, I guess since 2008. And so that's the show we always enjoy going to. It was heartbreaking to have it not happen this year. Awesome Con in DC. We are friends with the people who started that show originally, and so we were there at the very first show, and we've been going there for years. Like I said, it's just about any show within that area we've done. Heroes Con, I love the show. It's a beautiful show. There are just so many artists there. I don't go as often because there are so many artists there.
Yeah.
I as a consumer, it's exactly where you want to be. If you're going to buy art, that's where you want to go. But he puts on a great show. Shelton Drum does that show. He puts on a great show. But that's a lot of artists.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, for those of you who aren't familiar with Heroes Con, it's you hear complaints every now and then, like the Wizard Worlds and the San Diego cons of fandom, and that there aren't enough quote unquote real comic conventions, and that's one of the few. It's a huge show, but it is not having gone, I'm only going by what I've been told, but It is actually very comic book centric.
Yeah, both
a lot of shows percentage wise.
Yeah, both Baltimore and Heroes Con are very comic centric. Baltimore the last 2 years has started to get a little bit more into the media aspect, but they're both very comic centric. Mark Nathan runs Baltimore, Shelton Drum runs Heroes Con. They're both really great shows, very, very much on the comic side of things. You're always at any show, you're going to get something it's off the beaten path a little bit. But those two shows in particular have always been very comic focused, very comic forward, lots of art. Lots of creators there that work on the books, writers and colorists and inkers and artists and everything. So if you have the opportunity, if you're into comics, that those are incredible shows to go to.
That's great. That's great. Will Schuyler has another question, and keep those questions coming, folks. We've still got about 10, 15 minutes here, so get your questions in now. Will Schuyler would like to know: do you sketch out your ideas first, or do you go straight into painting the picture when inspiration strikes? You read about people, a lot of artists who do the preliminary sketches and everything. Like in comics, like I remember reading that Gil Kane used to make like little drawings, then put them on like artograph, project them onto a sheet of paper, and then flesh them out from there. Whereas Jack Kirby, who was Jack Kirby, would just sit down with the paper, pick up a pencil, and then just start working. So what's your process as far as your preliminaries?
So it's funny you should mention Kirby. Kirby is amazing. I am not anywhere like that level, but I have actually sat at a show across from another artist. I'll drop a name here, Ebas, who literally will take a piece of paper and start doing this almost like a printer, like the old printers that go back and forth, drawing up of this figure of a woman, and it's absolutely amazing to watch, because you're like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you but you'll see it on occasion. He'll run out of space on certain things. But anyway, it's absolutely amazing to watch. I am not that. So I will never. I'll never do monthly comics. I don't want to do monthly comics or anything like that. Partially because I'm slow, and I admit that, and I'm fine with that. And to me, that it's not about speed. It's about whether or not the process is working for me, and the outcome is what I want. So so on this particular piece that's in Pulp Reality, is that where the plug goes in? I'm supposed to say the name.
Please.
Go to Amazon, right? I just want to make sure I'm doing this right.
All of your screen people. The last part of the crawl is the address where you can be the envy of your peer group and own a copy of Pulp Reality #1. So we put in the preliminary.
There you go. Preliminary plug. I actually, so I sketched it out in a sketchbook, a couple ideas. Again, I think I'd mentioned this earlier. The Buccaneer really was an inspiration for me on this one, and so I wanted to get a sense of this is somebody that's been beating around for years. This is not a new creation, and so I did a lot of different ideas. And we were mentioning this earlier. I went and was looking at old pulp pictures and magazines and covers. And one of the things I noticed about the robots, they were very much like the old Russ Manning robots from Magnus, where a lot of them had these large center masses with these spindly little arms and legs coming off of it. Yeah. And so this seemed to be a common thread of what robots looked like in so that became sort of my launching off point. But I wanted to get a sense of not 2020, more like 1820. And so I really wanted to pull in, this didn't look like something that just came off the latest Apple assembly line. But I was looking at old clockwork automatons. Mm-hmm. You've seen the ones where they can write and stuff like that, which may have been part of your inspiration.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at those and the gears and the way that they worked and some of that. And so that was a lot of my inspiration. So I did a lot of sketching around that, trying to come up with that sort of idea. So I got some poses I finally liked. I think I blew it up very similar to the first example you gave, Brian. I blew it up and then fleshed it in a little bit, and that's when I forwarded it over to you. And then so we went, had our dialogue, and I moved forward from there. So I think I drew it ultimately 1, 2, 3 times in pencil to get it finished. It's funny. Sketching is something, doing that repetitive sketching out of ideas. People say, oh, it's get boring. You're drawing the same thing over and over again. No, you're not, because each sketch ultimately should be doing something different. I'm looking at my values, my tones, the darks, the mids, the lights on one sketch. Another sketch, I'm looking at, the structure of the figures and is it a dynamic pose and things such as that. And so each sketch in and of itself should be solving a different piece of the puzzle, getting you ready for that final work. And so that's something that I didn't learn early on. That's actually been a more recent years discovery of like, what is the purpose of doing those thumbnails and how you get the most value out of them. Yeah. So the answer to your question, half an hour later, I sketched first.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. No. I think I speak for a lot of the audience that I love seeing other people's processes, you know, how they approach a piece and whether it's, you know, deliberate, like in this case, or it's just purely instinctive, like a Jack Kirby might.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think this gives, you know, a good insight into the creative process.
I think in a case like this, I have a duty to you as the writer to be true to the spirit of what you're trying to convey. In this case, I also have a duty to the genre. It's within a genre. And so I've got to hit, you know, making you as the creator, you know, it meets what you're after, but it also meets the genre. And then it's got to meet me third, right? You know, that I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
So it ultimately, all those pieces kind of play into, you know, how you get to that creation. But again, kind of getting back to that question about reference and things, I did research on design elements, you know, from different points in history, you know, the twisted metal design, you know, when did that come around? And, you know, some of the scroll work, you know, that's on the design of the actual arms and legs. You know, those were things that I was thinking about, you know, does this make sense? And where does he come from? And again, that sense of it's more 1820 than 2020, right?
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. And I have to say that, you know, as the creator of this Clockwork Pirate, I deliberately just put in the high notes of, you know, just enough to give the reader a means, you know, or frame of reference to visualize it. And I do that with my comic book writing in that I give the artists I'm working with, try to give them just enough to get the basics of the illustration, but I'm not like Alan Moore, who's like, okay, their finger is like 2 inches to the left of the ring finger, you know, and here's all the names of the books in the library behind them. You know, you'll never get a story like that from me, kids. But, you know, to watch somebody that gets the process and gets what I was trying to do, like you did, Stephen, and you know, it's like, okay, here's where I saw the character, and then here's your version of it. And now, from this point on, I'm going to try to have to describe what you did, if/when I bring the pirate back. So, you know.
Well, I hope you do.
Good. I hope you're drawing it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's an interesting concept. I mean, you know, no offense to Charles, I'm sure you're here. I apologize for what I'm about to say, but no offense to Hawkland. I am intrigued by now the background of the Buccaneer. As I said, I wanted the sense of this thing's been floating around for, no pun intended, floating around for a while. And so, what is the story? Where did it come from? How did it get here? And you know, how did they end up aligned with you know, such a malignant group? You know, those are the questions that I'm like, I walk away, and not that I think you should answer all of them.
Yeah.
Again, because I think that's some of the fun of mysteries.
And I do have an answer for all of it. I've had this character in my mind for a number.
There you go. So, yeah. So
I'll tell you after the show.
Yeah. There we go.
So we have a couple more comments because we are coming to the end of our time here. And thank you once again to Charles F. Millhouse for giving us this privilege to talk about his great Pulp Reality #1 in front of you, and for me to get to meet Stephen. Willow Schuyler says, I love hearing about people's process for their art and stories. Thank you for sharing your passion with us.
You're welcome.
All right. And then we have 2 more questions. We'll go with Sarah. Sarah's first. Do you mash up art styles for any pieces of work? Do you bring in, you know, how do you decide what influences will make their contribution to any given art piece?
Yeah. So I was mentioning Bill Sinkovich earlier, who has, if you follow his art, he has 2 to 3 different, very distinct styles of art. And you know, one piece will be very much in one vein and in other veins. So I actually have been very eclectic like that myself over the years, and I'm actually trying to be less eclectic. I think the thing that as an artist, working and looking for work, one of the things that creative directors look for is consistency, right? And so having that eclecticism in your portfolio doesn't always play in your favor. It's not the matter of saying, oh, I can do all these different styles. They're like, well, I don't know what style I'm going to get to you if I ask you to do something for me. So I've actually tried to move more towards having less eclecticism in my art styles. That said, because I'm very influenced by artists that work in multiple mediums at once, there is a natural sense of that in my work and in work that I like to be inspired by. Again, I mentioned Mac and Singwich. Both of them are very much work with different materials. If you look at some of the stuff Mac's done, he's got feathers and pieces of horns and all kinds of things. And then I've got things where I do similar things, where I've got graph paper and I've got colored pencil and ink and 2 different types of paint because they give you different views. So I've done a lot of that. But as I try to work more towards doing cover work and illustration work like this, I'm actually working towards more of a consistent look and feel to my portfolio, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And now we're going to give the floor, the last question, to the one, the only Cindy Kep, CKOEPP.com. Sign up for a free monthly newsletter. # always promote. Suggestions for artistic noobs. If someone was going to get into the field of art, what advice would you give them? Other than run screaming.
Yeah. So my first response is reconsider.
Get a real job.
No. So art is a very enjoyable endeavor, and I think that you do it because you want to do it or you have to do it. I was actually speaking with a writer from Perhaps Not. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but Todd DeZago.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Todd and talking about this comic book we were working on, and he's like, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Because I want to tell this story." And he goes, "Okay, that's all that's important. At the end of the day, that's all that's important. You'll do it because you want to do it." So if your motivation is because you have a story you have to tell or a picture you need to make, then you'll do it. And that's why you should do it. If your motivation is anything other than that, you need to look at something else. Because honestly, I draw and paint and because I have to do it, not because it makes me rich or famous or anything like that. I do it because I have to do it.
Exactly. And remember, folks, if you get into these creative businesses and you want to make a small fortune, start out with a large one. Anyway, now I'm glad you mentioned Todd DeZago. I believe he was the one who wrote a series called Telos.
Telos with Ringo. Yes, with Ringo. Yep.
I met both of them at Mid-Ohio-Con.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I know he won't remember me, but I was really knocked out to meet him. So, and I just came across.
Oh, he won't remember me either, so that's okay.
Yeah, I figure I'm like the silence in Doctor Who. The minute they turn their backs, they forget who I am. But anyway, Glenn B. Fleming, glad to see you here, my friend. And Sarah says great explanations. Fascinating. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are closing out the hour here, and we're going to go a couple minutes over because we want to give Stephen a chance to tell you all how to stay in touch with this amazing man and to send some work to this guy. Seriously, get on his list and check out his Facebook page. So, Stephen, as we say here all the time, we're going to give you the floor and all the dirt on it. Tell the people how they can stay in touch with you, if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can actually find me on Instagram, Twitter, under Stephen Burks Art, just all one word. You can find me on Facebook under Stephen Burks Art, all one word. I do have a website that is sometimes kept up to date, and you can find me at stephenburks.com. So we try to keep it simple around here. So it's just my name. StephenBurks.art or Stephen Burks Art, and you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or StephenBurks.com.
All right. Excellent. Stephen, it was a pleasure meeting you, man.
Pleasure talking with you as well.
Oh, man, I really appreciate being here. I'm going to mute you here and take you out of the portrait so that, but stick around so I can say goodnight to you, okay?
All right. Will do.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And Cindy Kep says, y'all done good. Thanks for playing. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for helping with this. And Joe Dog McKeel, great show. Very informative. Thank you very much. Tune into Stupid O'Clock at 11 p.m. Eastern tonight and see another fantastic show. And Sarah says, great show. Thank you, Sarah, for your part in it. Love you, hun. And Charles F. Millhouse, the man of the hour, says, thank you. Thank you for finishing out the day of takeover. Thank you, Charles, for letting me take over. And thank you so much for making Pulp Reality #1 a reality. And folks, check out the crawl. Pulp Reality is available on Amazon in paperback form. Get your copy today. And I know that it's got a star-studded array of creators in there, both artistic and authorial. And anytime you bring a copy of that to a show we're at, please, we'd be happy to sign that for you. But again, thank you to Charles F. Millhouse for making this all possible. And Willow Schuyler, you gentlemen have a great night. Thank you for answering my questions. Willow, mwah, thank you. Willow's Pillow Talk on YouTube and on Facebook. Please, thank you very much, Willow, for all you do. You're awesome. And to everyone watching, thank you very much for your great questions and your comments. We appreciate your support here of not just Stephen and Charles, but of myself and all that we are doing here. Don't forget this show has been brought to you by PlasmaFireGraphics.com. When the look of your book matters to you, check out Plasma Fire Graphics. And also, let's see, I want to put this up because I love these people so, and we're going to scroll down to, remember, folks, this program has been brought to you by Nevermorians, just like you. And we thank you, all of our patron supporters. We really appreciate all that you do for us, and we appreciate everyone that showed up tonight. Thank you for watching. If you watch this on the IndieVent or Rising Tide Publications page, please give the video a thumbs up, give it a like, because it helps us in getting other people to discover the amazing work of Stephen Burks. Also, it helps, and you please give the page you watch it on a like too, because it helps them show up in news feeds more often. And if you're watching us on Geek Insider or Brian K. Morris Rising Tide Publications on YouTube, please give the thumbs up to this video if you enjoyed it. We hope you did. And also please consider subscribing to the page you watched on and ring that bell so you're notified of any future videos that we put up there. And don't forget, go to risingtide.pub where you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. It's free, and we bring it out around the first of every month. And so in closing, thank you all again for being here. Thank you again, Charles F. Millhouse, for letting me take over your channel here. And to all of you, remember, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome, because that's just exactly what you are. Thanks to Stephen, thanks to Charles, and thank you very much. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Nevermind the Furthermore, a Rising Tide Publications and Brian K. Morris production. Member of the Comic Book Advocating Network and sponsored by GeekInsider.com. Become part of our show with sponsorship and advertising opportunities. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com or visit podcast.geekinsider.com. The Geek Insider podcast is available on your favorite app, so please hit the follow button and share it out to your friends, because if you don't, you might have to turn in your geek card.